I want to try to explain something which is not easy, so please bear with me. Everything we know, everything we know through the mind is filtered through and appears in accordance with the limitations of that mind. A human mind consists of the faculties of thinking and perceiving. So when awareness looks through a human mind, everything it knows or perceives is filtered through the limitations of thought and perceptions and appears in accordance with it. The human mind, the perceiving faculty of the human mind consists of seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, and smelling. And therefore the world appears to us as sights, sounds, tastes, textures, and smells. It's not that the real world is a collection of sights, sounds, tastes, textures, and smells. That's just how the reality of the world appears when it is viewed through the lens of a human mind. Just as white snow will appear orange to one who views it through orange-tinted sunglasses. The real snow is not really orange. It just appears orange because of the medium through which it is perceived. And as long as we're looking at the snow through the orange glasses, although we are perceiving, we're looking at the real snow, we're not seeing it as it really is. So when we look at the world, although we're looking at the reality of the world, whatever the world is in itself, it appears to us in a way that is consistent with the limitations of thought and perception. In other words, when we look at the world through the mind, we can never know what it really is. We can only know how it appears to a limited mind. One more thing to say about that whenever we look at the world, when awareness looks at the world through a mind, our experience of the world is always in subject-object relationship. The awareness that knows it, and the world, the object, whatever it is that is known. This also includes our thoughts and feelings. They are known in subject-object relationship. Everything that is known through the mind, our thoughts and feelings on the inside, the world on the outside, is known in subject-object relationship. The awareness that knows, the world that is known. This is the only way a mind can know anything. All the mind's experience takes place in subject-object relationship, in duality. It cannot be any other way. Now exactly the same is true if we want not to look at the world and know the nature of the world, but to look at ourselves. If we look at ourselves through the faculties of the mind, through thinking and perceiving, our self will appear in accordance with the mind through which it is perceived. It will share the limited qualities of the mind. So in order to know the nature of awareness, we cannot look at it through the faculties of thinking and perceiving. Awareness must look directly at itself, unmediated through the mind. Awareness is knowledge of itself, would be the only true knowledge, the only absolutely true knowledge. All other knowledge or experience is relative to the mind through which it is known. So the only absolutely true knowledge would be awareness's knowledge of itself. So what is awareness's knowledge of itself? When I say awareness's knowledge of itself, I suggest that awareness's knowledge of itself, it takes place in subject-object relationship, like awareness's knowledge of the world, awareness's knowledge of itself. But this is not intended. In order to know the world, we must stand up as a separate subject of experience. We can only know the world. Indeed, we can only know anything objective in subject-object relationship. I know my thoughts. I perceive the world. In other words, in order to know anything, we must stand apart from that thing. We must view it or know it in subject-object relationship. Our eyes cannot see themselves because they cannot stand apart from themselves and view them. They can see everything apart from themselves. It's just an analogy. So what about awareness's knowledge of itself? Awareness cannot stand apart from itself. It cannot separate itself from itself and look back and say, there is awareness. Like we can say, there is a tree. Just another analogy, like empty space. Imagine empty space being conscious or aware. Empty space could never stand apart from itself and look back at itself. It could never know itself in subject-object relationship, because how would it stand apart from itself? Where would it go? Empty space cannot separate itself and look back at itself and know itself in subject-object relationship. It's the same with awareness. Awareness cannot stand apart from itself. It cannot separate itself from itself and look back and say, oh, there is awareness. It is, and then describe its qualities. So if we ask awareness, what is your experience of yourself? Do this experiment now. I don't just want to think about this. I want to perform the experiment. You are aware. You, awareness, are aware. That is your innermost experience, now more intimate than your thoughts or the sound of my voice or the sensation of your body. Being aware is your innermost experience. You, awareness, are having the experience of being aware. So I'm talking to you, awareness. What is your experience of yourself? The first thing awareness must do is turn its attention away from all the other things that it knows. Thoughts, images, feelings, sensations, and so on. It must, so to speak, try to look at itself. But of course awareness can't look at itself because it's too close to itself. To look at something we must stand apart from that thing and view it from a distance in subject-object relationship. But awareness cannot separate itself from itself. Where would it go? At the same time, we cannot say that awareness does not know itself. If awareness did not know itself, we would not know that we are aware. When we say we are aware, it is we, awareness, that knows that we are aware. So awareness is obviously knowing itself all the time. But its knowledge of itself is not in subject-object relationship. It's the only, awareness's knowledge of itself is the only experience, if we can call it an experience, there is, that does not take place in subject-object relationship. So ask yourself the question now. What is my experience of myself? Me, awareness. What is my experience of myself? Imagine that experience, and by experience in this context I mean objective experience, thoughts, feelings, sensations, perceptions, had not yet arisen. Imagine you, awareness, all alone prior to the arising of experience. Imagine removing, you don't actually have to remove them, of course, just imagine removing thoughts, feelings, sensations and perceptions. So it's just you awareness, all alone. And because being aware is your nature, you are aware of yourself just by being yourself. Now, what is your experience of yourself? If you were to say something true about yourself, what would you, awareness, say about yourself based on your current, intimate, direct experience of yourself? Don't think about this. Thoughts are completely irrelevant. There should be either be no thoughts, or at least don't refer to what your thoughts are saying. This is just about awareness's direct experience of itself. Awareness is, as it were, tasting itself, knowing itself. And then if it were to formulate its experience of itself, what would it say? Don't make reference to objective experience. Objective experience hasn't yet arisen. Now, of course, awareness cannot say anything without the aid of a mind, but imagine that awareness could say something about itself. In order to say something about itself, it would first have to name itself. Because it wants to refer to itself. And it would name itself I. Because I is the common name that which knows itself gives to itself. And if we were to ask awareness, having named itself I, to tell us what its primary experience of itself is, it would just say, I am. The reason why awareness can say of itself, I am, is because it knows itself. It is having the experience of itself, albeit a non-objective experience. And whatever says, or whoever says, I am, or let me rephrase that. Whenever we feel and say, I am, we are always referring to awareness's experience of itself. Because only that which is aware can know the experience of being. Therefore, when we say, I am, we do not say, I am as a person. When we say, I am, we are speaking on behalf of our self-awareness, the one who knows, the only one that knows, and therefore the only one that is aware of itself, aware of being. Now, what would awareness say if we were to press it further? Tell us something else about yourself. Awareness would, so to speak, keep looking at itself, keep experiencing or knowing itself. What else can it say about itself, apart from I am? Don't think about this. You, awareness, are having the experience of being aware. You are experiencing, you are knowing your own being. What can you say about yourself apart from I am? awareness would just remain silent in the face of this question. It could not add anything to I am. It would not say, I am inherently peaceful, because it has not yet known the agitation of the mind. It is all alone, remember, prior to the arising of experience. It would not say, my nature is happiness, because it has not yet known the experience of sorrow. It would not say, I am eternal, because it has not yet known the experience of time. It would not even say, I am infinite, because it has not yet known the finite. When we say awareness is inherently peaceful, unconditionally fulfilled, ever present, infinite, these are just the mind's attempts to express the nature of awareness with reference to the agitation, the sorrow, the time and the space that it knows. They are these statements that awareness is peaceful, happy, eternal, infinite and so on. They are true relative to the mind's knowledge. But in awareness's experience of itself, none of these statements are true. Awareness's experience of itself is just the experience that we refer to when we say, I am. It is not finite, it is not infinite. It is not in time, it is not eternal. It is not agitated, it is not peaceful, it is not unhappy, it is not joyful. In its own experience of itself. And thus, the words I am are the highest truth. Take all the philosophy, all the religion, all the spiritual traditions, everything that has ever been said or thought or written in the last 5,000 years. What is the height, the culmination, the pinnacle of knowledge, of truth? What is absolutely true? I am. going to say something that in other cultures at other times one would be killed for. And that is that to say I am is higher, more true than to say God is. Because to say God is, we must stand apart from God and name God as an object of our experience. We must assert God as an object that is. And to do so, we must stand apart from God. And if we are to stand apart from God, we must be a second self, a second being, a second Lord. And to stand apart from God and to assert oneself as a second being, albeit a finite, temporal being, is to assert that there is something other than God, and that is blasphemy. So to assert that God is to deny God. Because implicit in the assertion that God is our self as a separate self that stands apart from God, as a second self, a second being, a second Lord. If we were to ask God, what is your experience of yourself? God would not say God is. God would say, I am. Therefore, the knowledge I am is higher than the knowledge God is. We could say that the knowledge God is the pinnacle of the mind's knowledge. The pinnacle of the mind's limited knowledge. But the knowledge I am is in a different category of knowledge. This is why Meister Eckhart prayed to God to rid him of God. The ordinary, familiar, intimate experience, we can call it an experience that is present for each of us now. That is the experience I am. It is the most profound experience one can ever have. And we are actually having it all the time. Only for most of us the I am is coloured and qualified by experience. So we do not know it as it is, as it essentially is. The pure experience I am is our primary experience, our first experience, our innermost experience. It is the origin of all knowledge and experience. But it is also the culmination of all knowledge and experience, the height of all knowledge and experience. It is the Alpha and the Omega. It is the end of knowledge, the culmination of knowledge. It's what Vedanta means. Vedas and Anta in Sanskrit means the end of knowledge, the culmination. Both the origin and the culmination of all knowledge. When the mind understands what the words I am truly mean. It just falls down. It surrenders. It dies. It cannot bear that knowledge. Thank you.